बात करते हैं इज़राइल और ईरान की जंग के हवाले से। मामला बढ़ता जा रहा है, दोनों तरफ से एक दूसरे पर बमबारी जारी है। इज़राइल ने भी कई हमले किए हैं ईरान पर, और ईरान की तरफ से भी कई 100 मिसाइल दागे गए हैं, और ये वो मिसाइल हैं कि जिनको इंटरसेप्ट भी किया गया इज़राइल का जो आयरन डोम सिस्टम है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद कई ऐसे मिसाइल थे जो कि जाकर तेल अवीव में गिरे। अब ये मामला कहाँ तक जाएगा और इस मामले के हवाले से ईरान अब क्या करेगा, इस हवाले से हम बात करेंगे। हमारे साथ शहराम अकबरज़ादे मौजूद हैं, ऑस्ट्रेलिया से हमें जॉइन कर रहे हैं। सीनियर प्रोफेसर हैं वो डेकन यूनिवर्सिटी ऑस्ट्रेलिया के, और मिडिल ईस्ट और सेंट्रल एशियन पॉलिटिक्स पर काफ़ी गहरी नज़र रखते हैं। अस्सलाम वालेकुम प्रोफेसर, थैंक यू फॉर गिविंग अस योर टाइम।
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, Professor, let's start with the role of the United States in this whole conflict. Initially, the United States was saying that this was a unilateral attack by Israel, but now the US has come up and it has said that we knew about this whole attack. Can you tell us what exactly does the US mean, and how is US involved in this whole scenario?
Very good question. I think it's very clear that the United States was aware, had advance warning of the attack. We know that because the US was evacuating its embassies and non essential staff from a lot of the embassies in the region, especially in Iraq, anticipating that tension could escalate and it would put the American lives at risk. So the US was aware. Whether they had given the green light or not is debatable. But one thing is for sure, the US was involved in defending Israel after Iran retaliated. So that's the problem and that's the risk that we are facing right now. Uh, the US may not have initiated the conflict, but the US is very much on the verge of being dragged into the conflict, and the conflict can easily get out of hand and gain a regional aspect.
So now Donald Trump has said that these attacks by Israel on Iran will compel Iran to sign the nuclear deal. What do you think? Will this happen? Is that possible?
Well, I think Donald Trump is trying to have it both ways. First, Donald Trump asked Netanyahu not to attack and let give diplomacy a chance. Now that the attack has happened, it, he is threatening Iran with more attacks, trying to get them to the table. But that is so misguided. The authorities in Iran are not going to continue talks over the nuclear program under fire. And it's very predictable that Iran has canceled ongoing talks on its nuclear program. And it's very predictable that they will not return to the discussion, to negotiation table while being attacked.
So what is the future of these negotiations now?
Very grim, very grim. I don't see how negotiations can actually continue while Iran is engaged in a military confrontation in war with Israel, and with every chance of the United States being also involved in that conflict. So you can't expect Iran to be negotiating on the future of its nuclear program, because now this is the problem. There are many voices in Iran that have been advocating for the weaponization of the nuclear program. They've been advocating for a nuclear bomb, saying that that is the only way to deter aggression. So now those voices are getting louder in Iran. Those voices are pointing to what's going on in the region and saying, look, we have no other deterrence against US aggression, against Israeli aggression, except the nuclear bomb. It's difficult for the authorities in Iran to dismiss that argument. And this means that Israel has actually achieved the very opposite of what it claimed to aim for. Israel said they want to dismantle Iran's nuclear program, but in reality, they have given force for the weaponization of the nuclear program.
So, Professor, as we all know, that Israel has been after the nuclear program of Iran since decades. So, what is the difference now, and what has made Israel so powerful that it bombed Iran now?
Yes, Israel has been lobbying against the nuclear program for decades and against the Islamic Republic of Iran, the regime, for decades. Um, Israel was very much against the 2015 nuclear agreement that President Obama signed with Iran. That was a problem for Israel, and Israel advocated for the cancellation of the nuclear deal when President Trump came to office. And of course, President Trump withdrew from the deal. So this has been a constant in the Israeli agenda. What has changed now and what has really facilitated the war, the conflict, is that first, last year there were exchanges between Iran and Israel, and a lot of Iranian anti-air defense systems were disabled. And second, in the course of the Israeli war on Gaza, Israel has managed to dismantle a lot of Iranian proxy assets in the region. If you think about Hamas, is effectively destroyed and incapable of posing serious threat to Israel. Hezbollah, that has been the crown jewel of Iranian proxy, is now pushed north away from the border, so its capacity to pose a threat against Israel is seriously diminished. You will recall that Hamas's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah is assassinated. He was assassinated last year by Israel. Also, think about what's going on in Syria. The Syrian regime under Bashar al-Assad was the staunch ally of Iran. That regime is gone, and parts of Syria is actually occupied by Israel. So put all of this together, and you see a seriously diminished capability for Iran to mount retaliation and attacks on Israel in the region using its proxies. So all of this has given Israeli strategic thinkers and planners the reason to decide that this is the time to push against Iran's nuclear program. Also, keep in mind that Trump was trying to find a diplomatic solution for Iran's nuclear program, and talks were ongoing. They were supposed to be meeting tomorrow in Oman, in fact. So, Israel has torpedoed any chance of diplomacy and has really put changed the agenda. So the agenda and the next course of action is more conflict and confrontation.
So, six important nuclear scientists killed, important installations attacked. So, how big is this damage for the Iran nuclear program?
Well, it's huge damage. The military command structure, not the structure, I should say, a lot of personnel, commanders and personnel have been killed, assassinated. Their families have been killed. That's civilian death. Scientists have lost their lives. So that's huge damage. It's going to take Iran a number of years to regain the uh, the scientific knowledge to replenish the ranks. But that is a setback. That's a temporary setback, and that we have to distinguish between tactical gain that Israel has achieved now and a strategic gain. Strategically, Israel has not achieved anything. Tactically, Israel has achieved plenty.
So, Professor, let me give you the views of some different views of people. Some people say that Iran is a very brave country. It's a very courageous country at this point in time, as it is standing face to face with Israel. And others are of the view that since Iran does not have the capability to harm Israel, it should avoid conflict. What do you think? Which view makes sense?
Well, I mean, these views are driven by an ideological framework and point of reference. Those who believe that the United States and Israel need to be stopped by force would favor the Iranian point of view. Those who believe that there needs to be some kind of a political compromise, a diplomatic solution to the crisis would have a different point of opinion.
Now, I also want to discuss something very important said by Netanyahu. He said that we are giving the people of Iran a chance to stand up against their regime, against their government. So, what does he mean? And what does he think about the people of Iran? Are they so unhappy that this attack by Israel on Iran will be taken, will be considered as a chance to stand up against their regime?
That is quite telling, and I think Netanyahu is really hoping that conflict, and especially if the conflict escalates and brings the US into open confrontation with Iran, that will generate the momentum and opportunity for some kind of a popular backlash against the regime. That is a very risky calculation and risky path to follow. Of course, there is a divide between society and the ruling regime. We saw it last in the last couple of years. 2022, we had the Woman Life Freedom movement that openly challenged the legitimacy of the political regime in Iran. And we saw it in a very low turnout in ballot boxes at presidential election. Less than 50% participated. And that's when the supreme leader in Iran had been urging everyone to participate, even if they didn't agree with his policies. He was saying, come and cast your vote, even if you want to vote against me. Come and cast your vote because that's important. That's a sign of legitimacy for the regime as a whole. So the very low turnout in elections, below 50%, which is unprecedented in Iran, is an indication of how unpopular the regime is. But never mind that factor. If you have an external power attacking Iran, then public opinions can easily change and galvanize and come behind the ruling regime because Iranians are also very nationalist and they wouldn't want to be attacked by a foreign power.
So, with more and more of these attacks on a daily basis, where do you think the region is heading towards?
Unfortunately, this is not going to end well for anyone. Unfortunately, I think tensions will escalate, Iran will retaliate even more. Israel has already said that this is the first wave and this is going to take weeks. This means the US will be embroiled in the conflict, and with the United States embroiled, that means all of US assets in the region will become targets, not just for Iran, but also for various Iranian proxies and Iranian allies, Houthis, Shia militia in Iraq and elsewhere. So when that happens, the whole region is going to go up in flames.
Thank you so much, Professor Shahram Akbar.